What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs. And today I am joined by Prime Conor once again because, guys, desperate times call for desperate measures. And I had to call in the backups today to talk about this one. I couldn't just do it by
Backups?
myself. Yeah, you're the
Excuse me?
backup. Yeah.
No,
Well,
dude,
because
I started this. I built this. Okay? Like, no, like I've been here since day one. It's like, don't call me the backups. Like your best videos are all with me. Like, do people want to see me? Like, especially when the team loses, they want to see me. Like, without me, this whole ship sinks. Like, I'm a fucking
the
pimp
ship
out
is
here
sinking.
rocking Gucci mink, and without me, this whole ship sinks. Like,
Well, the ship is sinking, Connor. That's the problem right now. The
yeah,
ship
that's
is
why you brought
sinking
me
for the
back.
Kansas City Chiefs.
You're desperate, so you brought me back. And now guess what? This video is gonna do well because I'm here. Like that's the impact. It's called the Prime Conor effect. Like when I'm around, good things happen.
Well, I'll tell you what. Brett Beach and the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers got me drinking on a weeknight, and it is already midnight. I know it's 1 a.m. where you're at. Where I'm at, it's midnight. I'm drinking on a weeknight because, Connor, this offense is an unmitigated disaster. The Kansas City Chiefs lose to the Philadelphia Eagles 21-17. And for the, I want to say, I don't know how many games it's been, but I saw some stat on Twitter that the Chiefs essentially they're horrendous in the second half on offense. Just in the second
Eh,
half, their offense
games
completely
about
shuts
four in the
down.
second half or something.
Yeah, it's really bad. But tonight they scored 17 in the first half. Second half they had nothing, and this was almost the same exact story as the Miami Dolphins game in Germany right before the bye week. But the Philadelphia Eagles are a better team than the Miami Dolphins, and they were always going to score points and come back in the second half. And right now, and that's why you lost, because you can't ask the defense to play perfect, not put up points, and expect to win that game. Right now, the Kansas City Chiefs are operating like a baseball team that asks its starting pitcher to go out there, throw 8 innings, hold the other team to 0 runs, and then when they lose 2-1, they're like, "Well, why'd you allow that one run in the eighth inning?" And it's like, "Well, it's not his fault because that's unrealistic. You can't ask that of your starting pitcher." The Kansas City Chiefs cannot ask their defense to pitch a shutout every single night, and the offense thinks they can just roll the ball out there and win the game. You can't do that, especially like good teams against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the wide receiver woes continue, the offensive woes continue, which is very alarming. I mean, it was already alarming, but it's especially alarming when this was the, notorious Andy Reid coming off a bye week. This was the Chiefs off a bye week, and this was the offensive performance that we saw. Uh, a lot of cause for concern, but what are your initial thoughts on that game?
I mean, I got bad vibes like pretty early on, just with the fact that it was a Monday night game with shitty weather. Because like historically, that's not a great scenario. But like, I really thought that we were gonna win there for a while, just because like the Andy Reid coming off a bye thing is kind of overrated and over talked about at this point. But he was undefeated against the Eagles, and Travis was undefeated against Jason. I know that's pretty much the same stat, but still, I just thought that we were going to win just because of those two trends, or one trend, I guess. Anyway, and we really should have because the problem, like 100% of the issue with this team is the receiving core. I feel like tackles are still an issue, but tackles are like a issue for another day. Right now,
Kind of like
like
I told you, it's like that's a secondary concern. It's like, hey, if the tackles could clean up the play, that'd be great, but they're not the reason we're losing games right now.
yeah. I mean, we were talking about it in the group chat earlier. Like the Chiefs don't even have the best wide receiver room in the state of Missouri. Like that's pathetic. That's genuinely pathetic that a college team has undoubtedly a better wide receiver room than you. Because like Luther Burden would be number one receiver by a mile here. Theo Weiss would be the number two, and you were talking about how Mookie Cooper would probably take over, and I said Sky Moore would not see the field at Mizzou. Like not a chance. Like, these dudes are terrible, and it's incredibly
I hate how
frustrating.
true that is. I hate how true that is that Sky Moore wouldn't see the field at Mizzou.
There's a reason we drafted him out of Western Michigan. Like, there's a reason he played in the MAC. Like, but no, it's incredibly frustrating. And like, do you remember my I don't even know what they're called, the voice memo? Did you see the voice memo
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah. I
yeah, you
saw it.
liked it.
Yeah, I liked
I
it
feel
because it's
like I
perfect.
articulated it pretty well. You know what? I'm just gonna
Oh
play
yeah,
it.
yeah. Go ahead.
I am so fucking sick of just the lack of accountability on this team. On paper, this is the best overall team we've had in the Mahomes era. The one fucking issue has been receiver. Didn't trade up to go get a receiver in the first round. Drafted Rashee Rice. He's probably going to be good. Whatever. But still, you had a good receiver in Amir Smith-Marset. You traded him away. And you had the opportunity to go out and trade for a receiver at the deadline. Preferably Adam Thielen, but still, fucking somebody. And you trade for fucking McCole Hardman, the dog shit receiver who I wanted out of town 3 years ago. Finally fucking got rid of him just for him to come back and blow a game. Why did we lose to the Broncos? Because McCole Hardman can't field a fucking punt. Why did we lose to the Eagles? Because Marquez Valdes-Scantling can't catch a fucking pass. Why did we lose to the Lions? Because Kadarius Toney can't catch shit. Like, the receiving core is going to be the reason we lose in the playoffs. The best team we've had on paper, we're gonna fucking lose because of these dog shit receivers, and I'm so sick of having the same fucking problem week after week, season after season. These receivers suck, and we don't do shit about it. Oh, they're young guys. Let them develop. Fuck them. We don't have time for that. Travis Kelce is 34. CJ has 1 foot out the door. The window's closing, and we don't have any fucking receivers.
Yeah, and I know you how your fans are, and I already know there's gonna be some jackass commenting like, "Oh, Josh, come on, we're 7-3. We just won the Super Bowl last year. We're gonna be fine. Hashtag trust in Beach. Don't you believe in Mahomes? That guy can suck my right nut, okay? Because anyone who talks like that, I fucking hate. I fucking despise these people for us having high expectations for this team. Like, heaven forbid we want the team to repeat as Super Bowl champions when on paper this is the best team that they've put around Mahomes. Outside of the receiver position, I think that's undoubtedly true. Like, this defense is fucking insane. Like, Trent McDuffie's playing like a Hall of Famer. Like, George Karlaftis looks like a stud off the edge. Chris Jones is still a monster. Like, this team is really good. It's just they can't catch for shit. And like Taylor wasn't there, so Travis even looks like shit now because like I don't know, I guess she's just completely destroyed my Hall of Fame tight end because he can only perform in front of her and now he's talking about retiring so he can go be with her. What the fuck, Travie? But anyway, receivers. That's where I'm going with this. We've lost 3 games this year. First one, 100% on Kadarius Toney. Second one, 100% on McCole Hardman. Third one, 100% on MVS. If those 3 motherfuckers don't fuck up, we're undefeated. And I can't help but feel like we're going to get to the playoffs and Sky Moore is going to be that 4th guy to get us eliminated from the playoffs. Because, come on, it's Sky Moore. And fuck everyone who says, "Oh, but it's a team game. You can't blame the game, or you can't blame one guy." If that one guy made the play, the game's completely different. So no, fuck McCole, MVS, and Tony. Like, yes, there were a lot of terrible things that happened in this game, like the Kelsey fumble, like the fact
Yeah.
that there were so many drops. I had a tweet that like got a decent amount of traction. I don't know if you saw it. I said that like on any given down, Justin Watson can be Justin Jefferson or Gary.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's really true because he'll do just like some insane shit, but then just make boneheaded plays where he looks like the worst player on the field.
Well, the fourth down play that happened. I mean, everyone was already kind of deflated after the MVS drop, and that's kind of where the game was really lost. But still, Mahomes found Justin Watson open for what would have been a first down and kept us alive, but he dropped it. Like that was still a catchable pass.
Yeah.
So
One thing I want to point out is I was kind of this is gonna sound really weird, but I was kind of happy with how much hate MVS was getting because like I think even Arrowhead Live wasn't like defending him. Like I think we found only one Twitter account that was actually defending him. And like fucking Lexi Osborne, I didn't even see defending him. Maybe she did. Knowing her, she probably did, but I didn't see it. So just me not seeing any like MVS, like, come on, man, you'll get him next time. You're a great player. Lies.
Yeah,
But like
even the eternal optimists are out on the guy.
even like I expected them to act like he's Calvin Johnson, like because that's how it usually is. But no, like they're I don't know. One thing I want to talk about though is like I think Eric made a memo about this, but it's like Mahomes is too nice, and I'm just sick of it. Like sick of
Oh yeah,
I should have held a little back on that ball, made it an easier catch for MVS. What? It was in his hands. He had it. What else do you what do you want to do, Patrick? Like what else are you supposed to do? Like I get it. He doesn't truly mean that. He's just trying not to like put all the heat on MBS, but fuck him. Like
sure.
he should get off the team. Like he's dead to the fan base at this point, you know, like thanks for what you did in the AFC Championship last year, but everything else has been awful. So like you can kick rocks, buddy. Like I don't I don't know, no chances on the team next year unless he like wins Super Bowl MVP or some shit. But like
Well, like I've said before, because I know we were arguing about it right after the game. I've kind of
most
been
consistent receiver in the league.
I've been somewhat of a MVS defender, okay, for if you will. And that's because I feel like MVS is a solid 600 to 700 yards a year type of guy. Yeah, you don't know what you're going to get from him from game to game. Some games he's going to get you like 0 catches. Some games he's going to get you 4 catches, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's just kind of who he is. But, he can be a deep threat, whatever. He can do some different things. He's a role player. But the issue, and this is why I still like have some bit of, I mean, after tonight, like, of course, I'm kind of with everyone else. Like, he's just his time has run its course here. But the reason why I was still kind of having sympathy for MBS is because it's not necessarily his fault that he was put in a position this year by the Kansas City Chiefs to be kind of that default wide receiver one. Ideally, MVS is like your wide receiver three. And if he is, cool. He was productive in that role last year when Juju was here. And of course, Kelsey was still, kicking it, but I'm sure we'll get into Kelsey a little bit more later because he just doesn't look like the same guy. But that's why I had a little bit of sympathy for MVS because he's being thrusted into a role that he really should not be playing in, and it's a little unfair to him. But all that being said, you have to make that catch. I mean, that catch wins the game because for the first time in a very long time, had that play turned into a touchdown, which it should have been if he caught it, there still was like a little bit over a minute on the clock. But I had faith in this defense to shut the Eagles down. I don't think the Eagles would have driven the length of the field to win that game against this defense. This defense is too good, and that's really the sad part is you wasted a dominant defensive performance from this team. Chris Jones had 3 sacks tonight. A.J. Brown, the Eagles' best receiver, was held to 1 catch for 8 yards. Anytime you're holding this Eagles offense to those numbers, Jalen Hurts only passed for like 150 yards tonight. He had 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. If you're holding the Eagles to these numbers, you should be winning this game 10 times out of 10. But you didn't. You know why? Because this offense fucking sucks. It sucks. And it's all in the wide receivers. And I know some people will say, oh, well, like you said, oh, Josh, they're 7-3, and they won the Super Bowl last year, and they're still atop the AFC and all this stuff, which I don't think is true anymore because I think wouldn't the Browns have the 1 seed at this point, or am I?
Ravens are 8-3, Browns are 7-3. So like,
Yeah. So anyway, you get my point. And all these people are going to be like, oh, but the defense, the Chiefs don't need to score a bunch of points because they have such a good defense. Okay, that's not fucking true. Okay, you see this game. They played against a very good team, the Eagles, and that's the type of team that they're going to see in the playoffs. You have to be able to put up points in the playoffs. You have to. Defense is great. And of course, it's nice to have a great defense again. But in January, in February, the top offenses are what wins. And I know people are going to point to like the Denver Broncos, the last Super Bowl that they won, and how that offense was very pedestrian and the defense was just so dominant. And I get it, but you're this wide receiver core, even that Broncos team, they still had like Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders and those kind of guys. Who do we have on this team that compares to that? I mean, I think Rashee Rice is a guy, but he's a rookie. Outside of that, though, like what do you really have? You don't have anything. Travis Kelce doesn't look like the same guy. He looks like a 34-year-old tight end. And he even came up limping tonight after a play, if I remember correctly. And teams are able to double and triple him, and they're able to mug him at the line and all this stuff. And he doesn't look like the same guy. And that's also because, well, this front office and Brett Veach, they laid way too much responsibility on the shoulders of a 34-year-old tight end. And you know what really frustrates me about the fact that this could be a potentially wasted year because of the wide receivers is that this is a year in which the Buffalo Bills look like they're not going to do anything. Joe Burrow's out for the season. The Bengals aren't going to be a factor. The AFC is wide open. You have a wide open path to the Super Bowl, but this team might fumble a chance to go and win another Super Bowl because Brett Veach simply failed to properly address the wide receiver position. That's the most frustrating part when you have a wide open AFC like this.
The expectation, like, the floor of this team really should be going to the Super Bowl. Because, like you said, like the boogeyman, Joe Burrow, the only guy other than Tom Brady who's beat Mahomes in the postseason, is gone. Buffalo looks like shit. Like, Miami's probably going to get injured. I describe Miami and Baltimore as like porcelain Death Stars. Like, they can mess you up when they're on point. Like, two of the most talented teams in the league could easily win the Super Bowl if they were healthy. They're not going to be healthy. Like, that's just, they're not going to last. So all you have to do is outlast them. The Browns have one of the best overall teams, but now they're starting a rookie fifth-round pick in DTR. Yeah. I don't know why I hesitated on that. Anyway, and then like
It's a long name.
the South, like Houston with a rookie quarterback, I guess, like Jacksonville, who we beat last year and seems to have taken a step back for some reason. Like, there's not really a team that you're worried about at all. Like, it very much feels like it should be the Chiefs and everyone else. And, like, that's coming from me, like, the guy who, like, eternally doubts this team because of the glaring weaknesses that I see on a daily basis. But I just feel like if you go to the Super, like, we just lost to the Eagles. That's who we played in the Super Bowl last year. If we play, like, San Francisco or even, like, a rematch against Detroit or something like that, I just don't see us coming out on top of that because of the receiver core. And, like, I'm a very big proponent of the idea that defense wins championships because usually offenses can get found out come January. Sometimes you have to run the ball come January because of the elements. Just like I'll usually pick the better defense when it comes to January, but I feel like this offense is just going to be it. We're setting ourselves up for another Super Bowl 55. Like, the 55 team should have been better than the 54 team by just about every given metric, but they got to the Super Bowl and there was a position group that was just so abhorrent they couldn't win it. So, like, I feel like that's what's kind of destined to happen again because, like, I'll go player by player. Right. I'll even go through the practice squad wide receivers. Justin Watson, kind of talked about him before. Extremely streaky player. He's either going to drop it or make the best catch of the day. Like, he either looks like the best or worst receiver on the team. Very rarely does he look mediocre. MVS. I stopped myself from saying something that would get your YouTube channel taken down just now. I think I'll leave it at that. Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney is a really good return man. That's really it. Like, I think about the Detroit game, like, yeah, he had decent catches tonight, but it's not like he's going to be like your go-to guy. Like, everyone
That's
wants
also, I think it's also poor utilization though, because he clearly can play. Like, okay, the Lions game was really bad, but most of the time when the ball gets to Kadarius Toney, good things tend to happen. He tends to always make the first guy miss, at least a couple people miss. He gains yards, but I think they're trying to keep him kind of on ice until the postseason. That's why sometimes you'll see him for like a couple plays early, and then you just won't see him for the rest of the game. They also do the same thing with Rashee Rice, though, and that's infuriating because Rashee Rice doesn't have like an injury history or like any reason to keep him under wraps. But he'll get like a play. I remember, I think it was either the first or second drive. And I think it was the second one because the first one was like a 3-and-out. It was terrible. But the second drive, they get it to Rashee Rice, breaks Darius Slay's ankles and turns it into like a 15-yard gain, and then you don't really see him ever again. That's coaching malpractice.
All right, so where are we so far? Justin Watson, streaky player. MVS should get hit by a car. Kadarius Toney should be a returner only. Rashee Rice, I was pissed at the draft when we drafted Rashee Rice because I wanted Marvin Mims, who's been pretty good for Denver. But Rashee Rice, I have liked what I've seen from him so far. Drops are still kind of an anxiety for me when it comes to him, but
Yeah.
that's every receiver on this team, so who cares at this point, right? But I do like what happens when Rashee Rice has the ball in his hands because, like, if he catches it, something good's going to happen most of the time. But it's just like, I think, to that awful drop in the Browns preseason game, like, there's still that worry of, like, is he even going to catch it? Sky Moore, invisible, worthless, waste of a second round pick. Like, I don't know how this guy made the NFL. He is just awful. Richie James. Genuinely throw Richie James out there.
Real quick. Sky Moore might be topping Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Veach's worst draft pick.
Did Sky Moore kill a guy?
I don't know. But well, okay.
Richie James.
Here's the thing, though. At least with CEH, he had games his rookie year that he could hang his hat on, whatever. He's had moments in the past. He's overall not very good, but he's had games, right? Sky Moore, have we seen anything from him? Like, if you go and look at Sky Moore's stats for this season, I mean, here, look at this. Tonight, 1 catch for 4 yards. Dolphins game, 2 catches for 33 yards. Broncos game, 1 catch for 8 yards. Like, he's invisible, useless, worthless. And sometimes, that's almost worse than being bad because it's just like you're playing on offense shorthanded. It's like you only have 10 guys out there when Sky Moore's on the field.
Sky Moore is utterly worthless. Like, could you imagine if we had George Pickens right now? Like, just...
I know. There would be zero concern.
We have George
there would be
Pickens.
zero concern.
I mean, they'd be checking it up to 14 every time, but goddamn, I'd be down for it. McCole Hardman. What is there to say about McCole Hardman that hasn't already been said? Like, he's god awful, absolute waste of he was a waste of a draft pick at the time, and he was another waste of a draft pick by trading for him. Like, that is just... Can we talk about how, like, malpractice that is as a GM to draft this sorry-ass player over Scary Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf, ride him out for 4 years. He was pretty good his rookie season, but outside of that, he was awful. Like, Jet Sweet Boy is a one-trick pony, and that's all he'll ever be. Goes to the Jets after whining in free agency. Dude is on Twitter, like, talking like he's Marvin Harrison. Like, he thinks that he's so good, and he's just, like, misused or whatever. Like, dude, you suck. So he sits in free agency, pouts for a while, signs $1 million contract with the Jets, like pennies in terms of NFL contracts. And then he gets traded back to the Chiefs for another waste of a draft pick. And then he immediately loses the Denver game. And, like, honestly, you could consider the McCole Hardman trade one of the dumbest choices in Veach's draft tenure because we spent a draft pick to lose a game.
It's the constant, like, going backwards and bringing in these old players instead of progressing forward that irritates me. Like, we are beyond McCole Hardman being on this team, but Veach just has this obsession, this desperation to bring a guy like him back, and I don't understand it. And then McCole Hardman, even after he got traded from the Jets, was like, just wait till y'all hear the real story and all this stuff on his Twitter. Like, we're giving you an opportunity to prove everyone wrong. You say you're this great receiver, and then we put you out there and you suck. And then you lose games for us. And whenever I had a bunch of people in my mentions, whenever we traded for him, even when I made that video talking about it, they're like, "Oh, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're saying. You're a clown. McCall Hartman can help this team. He's a good returner. He's awful as a returner. I mean, that Broncos game,
Darius Toney should
not
be the
only
only
the
returner.
fumble, yeah,
For Montreal, Washington.
yeah. What happened
I'll
to
get to
him?
him in a second, actually. He's on the practice squad because I have the practice squad receivers like up right now just to like talk about them. Richie James. Richie James is a healthy scratch every week, but it's like let's find
Well, he
out.
just got
You
off
know,
IR not that long ago, but yeah.
let's find out. Practice squad. Montreal Washington's on the practice squad. Let's activate him. Cornell Powell is on the practice squad. Why not? You know, like people were excited about him coming out of the draft. He had a couple flashes in preseason, nothing too crazy. Let's find out. Chase Cota, I have no idea who that is. He's a white guy who went to Oregon. Let's go for it. Daniel Arias, a Dominican guy from Colorado. Screw it. Let's do it. Like, let's just throw bodies out there because they can't be worse, you know. And like, if the defense has no idea who these people are, it might be harder for them to make reads. But like, honestly, I said it in the group chat, and you said you wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, what if we just re-sign Sammy Watkins at this point? And because he's over the age of 25, every Chiefs fan will be like, he's washed. Why would you want to bring him back? Despite the fact that they want to bring back every other garbage player. But like with Sammy Watkins, you get a guy who knows the system, already has chemistry with Mahomes, and Mahomes knows that he can trust Sammy Watkins for the most part. That's a familiar presence that's going to be in the huddle for him. He's already won a Super Bowl here, so like there's the winning culture there. He's washed. He's not in playing shape. He just worked out for the Colts like 3 weeks ago, so he's probably in decent playing shape. And like we re-signed Mike Pennell, so like just re-sign Sammy Watkins at least to the practice squad and just see what you can get out of the Lizard King at this point. Because I'm not expecting like week one or playoff Sammy Watkins, but like I would just feel a lot better with Sammy Watkins out there running routes rather than like Sky Moore or like really anybody else not named Rashee Rice.
I was gonna say Jarvis Landry's out there too. Like he's a veteran that I would look into. I'm trying to think of who else is even available at this point. But like
I would like Julio.
it's gotten to that desperate of times because here's my thing, and this is why I'm truly concerned. Like I've held off on saying or on like pushing the panic button and all that stuff because I've just kind of learned over the years of like being a Chiefs fan that usually this team's problems, whatever they are, at least as of recent, like okay, take last year for example. Like when we had that bad Colts loss early in the season, people were starting to like freak out a little bit and point out all these weaknesses, but I kind of started to take the optimistic approach, the optimistic angle just a little bit because it's like, well, I mean, they overlooked the Colts. I don't think it's a reason to panic. Sure, this team has weaknesses, but they'll get it together. They went on to win the Super Bowl. And, I had a lot of questions about Brett Veach's offseason prior to that year. But, the picks that he made, some of the free agent signings that he made, they seem to really pan out, and we won the Super Bowl because of them. So I'm like, okay, Brett Veach has earned the benefit of the doubt. And I just feel like this organization has earned the benefit of the doubt. And so it's like unfair for me sometimes. It's a touchy subject, at least for, a lot of fans that comment on my videos and stuff to like doubt this front office and doubt this team. And so I just, I try to take the optimistic look and be like, okay, there's time. They can figure it out, whatever. Thanksgiving is this week, guys. And this offense looks the exact same as it did in week one against the Detroit Lions. The wide receivers have not improved whatsoever. There's been zero growth at all. I'm really starting to get to the point where I truly think, and there's nothing that can change my mind, that these wide receivers will keep us from winning a Super Bowl. It's not going to happen. You cannot repeat with this offense. This offense is not good enough. You're not going to repeat. The wide receivers aren't good enough. And I don't know if I can give the Chiefs the benefit of the doubt anymore at this point. We're too far into the season, and I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen any optimistic, any encouraging signs about the offense. So, I mean, guys, I don't know what to say. I don't believe in them. I'm sorry, but I don't. What reason
You
have
don't
they
believe in
given?
Mahomes? You don't believe in Mahomes, Josh? We have Mahomes, Josh. Nothing else matters. You could have a bunch of season ticket holders running routes, and we'd still win. You know why? Because we have Patrick LaVon Mahomes II, okay? So it doesn't matter if you have DeAndre Hopkins or Chiefsaholic out there running routes. Mahomes is going to win. Real stuff I heard people say. Um, so can we give it an award for like certified ball knower of the week? Because I would like to nominate Marquez Valdes-Scantling's high school coach because there's a tweet from when he signed with us. I could cry real tears right now. I got cut from my high school team as a freshman to signing a second contract in the NFL. How is it that MVS's high school coach knows more ball than Veach? Like,
Great talent
high school
evaluator.
coach saw this and said, "Hell no, not on my team." Like, man, we need to hire that guy as the wide receivers coach. I don't even know how to find out who that coach was, but he needs to be on the staff.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to get to this because I've seen a lot of this. I saw a little bit of it tonight. It's been an ongoing conversation since the beginning of the season, but I see a lot of like, oh, this is what happens when Matt Nagy's the offensive coordinator. The Chiefs miss Eric Bieniemy. Well, what is your take on that? I'm curious.
I feel like perhaps I was too harsh on Bieniemy, but I more so say that for how the Redskins look rather than how we look. Like, I like Nags. I've always liked Nags. I've been a very vocal defender of Nags, and I'm going to continue doing that. But like, you can't call a play for the receiver to catch the ball. You know, it's like it's not the
Here's my
problem.
thing. Here's my thing. Let me just stop you right there. Here's my thing. I Look, I was one of those people that when times were bad, like with Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator, I would be like, it's Eric Bieniemy calling the plays. You know, this offense sucks. You know, Andy Reid needs to call plays again, whatever. Like I've been there with this team before, but I feel like I've come to the realization that it's Andy Reid that calls the plays. It's always been like this. And also, let's not forget when Eric Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator, we had stretches just like this. Now, maybe not for as long because this fuckery that's going on with the offense has gone on for too long now. But we had stretches just like this with Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator too. But also, Matt Nagy cannot make chicken salad out of chicken shit in this wide receiver core. I'll say that. But what I was really going to get to is like when the Chiefs went for it on 4th and 2, I think it was like 4th and 1, 4th and 2 in the third quarter, and they decided to go for it. Who does Mahomes look at when he's arguing about whether or not to go for it? He looks at Andy Reid. He's not looking at Matt Nagy. Nagy's not making that call. And if he's not making that call, he for damn sure isn't calling the play that happens on that 4th and 1, 4th and 2 play. It's Andy Reid calling the plays. And you know how I know it's Andy Reid as well is because of the complete lack of situational awareness and the horrible situational football. Like in the Miami game right before the bye week. Remember that 3rd and 2 in like the fourth quarter where it was so obvious we should have just handed the ball off to Pacheco, who was ripping off 7 to 8 yards a run. And then they tried to throw, and then Mahomes had to throw it away in the flat, and we had to punt, and Miami almost had a chance to win the game. That stupid shit. Like, this is the type of stuff that this team does that I know that's Andy, because that's what Andy has always called for this team. Andy, love the guy, great offensive play designer. He cannot call plays in the correct situation to save his life. Like, his situational play calling is just god awful sometimes. And that's how I know it's him. But anyway.
I will remain a bit. I don't know. I've always had a level of beef with Andy just because of how infuriating the offenses can be at times, and just like you said, the lack of situational awareness, clock management. Those have always been issues. Like ever since like 2013, whenever he got here, like that's consistently been the same problems over and over again. But no, I'm gonna continue to go to bat for Nags, like no matter what. Like Nags is a G, Nags is my boy. Like I don't think he's the problem here at all. I think like 100. I'll stand by the fact that like issues with this team, wide receiver, tackles, everything else. Like I'm not worried about anything other than like I don't know what's even like the next biggest issue. Like this is a good team. This is a very good team. If we were out there looking like the Panthers, like I wouldn't be this upset because which is another reason why I hate the argument of like, oh, you're 7-3, calm down. But it's like we could be so much more. It's like you see, like we just won the Super Bowl. Like there's like I want that dynasty. Like that third ring is the most important because that's what makes you an official dynasty. And if we repeat, not many teams have repeated, and not many teams have won 3 Super Bowls in the span of 5 years. We are on the brink of something extremely special. So, yes, I'm going to be frustrated if I see us pissing away that opportunity. There was some guy, I think I sent him to the group chat, that's like, yeah, we're 7-2, but if we're 9-0 with DeAndre Hopkins, we'd have cap issues. Who gives a shit? Like, who cares if you barely have any cap room past the trade deadline in the regular season? Like, it doesn't matter. You'll get the cap from your 1 year guy back at the end of the year. Like, just get a veteran journeyman receiver. Like, I don't know why that's such a hard concept for people to grasp. You don't need cap room in week 14 of the season. Like, that's not how this works. But it's just the people that want to sit there. It's the people who like tweet like trust Veach in the offseason. And it's the same dumb fucks that will like tweet Mahomes and then someone else will quote tweet it with Mahomes. And like Eric had a banger tweet where he said, um, but like that stuff is so fucking lame, and just this entire like hunky dory fan base is I don't know. I'm feeling like circa 2019 Connor, I think. Like just like I don't know. I haven't like gotten at like the rage that I used to in a while, but it's like it's getting there. Just like fuck this fan base.
It's we are wasting a year of Patrick Mahomes in his prime right now with this wide receiver core, and it's frustrating. And I think it's not an overreaction to say that this wide receiver core could keep us from winning a Super Bowl. It's that bad.
I'm
This
gonna
is by
say
far the worst wide receiver core on a contending team.
this is the worst receiver core in the league. What are you talking about? Mac Hollins would be wide receiver one here. But where I was going with that was like I truly think this is the last dance. You know, like I've been making like a bunch of Jordan comps with Mahomes because like this really feels like it. Because and I said it in the Twitter memo because Chris Jones is not going to be back next year. I'd be shocked if he was, just with how awful the contract negotiations and everything have gone, and the fact that his new deal is only for this year. I don't think he's going to be back next year. And then Travis Kelce, like he said, with everything, because he talked about retirement today, and he said it's like the aching pains and the surgery and all that just destroying his body, which I'm sure there's a level of truth to that. But also, if you're like in a serious relationship with like the most famous woman in the world, like I can see like why that would take priority, and I feel like that's kind of like I genuinely think that's part of the reason why he's fallen off a cliff production wise. Because like even before they were like a thing, he was talking about it on New Heights, and I don't know. It just feels like his focus has shifted to the point where he's like Travis Kelce is now like a household name just as a celebrity rather than a football player now, and I don't know. His play is kind of reflecting that, and that's incredibly frustrating. Uh, and I
Yeah,
like honestly at this point if you have the opportunity to like settle down with Taylor Swift, you have multiple Super Bowls, you have every record in the book, like it just makes I couldn't blame the guy for hanging it up. I'd be pissed, but I couldn't blame it. So if CJ and because like there were 4 pillars of this team: Mahomes, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's gone. That left you with 3. Chris Jones is on the way out. Travis Kelce's on the way out. What happens when it's just Mahomes? We get into that Aaron Rodgers Packers era of just losing in the conference championship every year. Yeah, the team's still going to be good. Yeah, we're still going to make the playoffs and all that, but we're not going to win Super Bowls. And that's the concern and why this feels like our last shot, because we're not doing shit without Chris and Travis. So, like,
And can I just say,
God,
like, today's game just epitomizes how stupid a lot of your guys' takes on Chris Jones were at the beginning of the season about how this team doesn't need him and they should trade Chris Jones and all this stuff. Chris Jones is a monster. He's the MVP of this defense. This defense is not the top 5, top 10 defense it is without Chris Jones and his play. It's just not. This defense takes a massive step back without Chris Jones on it. And to think that he could be gone next year, Kelsey could be gone, like you said, then things start to get scary. And Brett Veach really has to start hitting on these draft picks, because unfortunately, guys, the truth is Brett Veach has not hit in the draft enough. Yeah, people will praise him for last year in that class, and the late round picks are great. The picks on the offensive line have been great, all that stuff. I get it, but the premium positions, wide receiver, edge, it took him a little bit. Like, Karlaftis seems good. I think FAU is going to be good. He's been kind of quiet, but like the skill position players, the drafting that has just been terrible. It's been bad, and I don't know. Eventually you start paying for the sins of so many missed draft picks.
like I said, I don't think it's ever going to be a point where like the Chiefs are like missing the playoffs or anything. Like, we could very easily like make the playoffs like
Right.
15 years straight.
Right.
But it's like, I mean, we're probably not too far from that at all at this point. Because like, we've won the division. I don't know. When was the last time we missed the playoffs? Like 2014? I
Well,
think.
here's the other scary thing too. We all thought the AFC West was wrapped up after that Chargers win a few weeks ago.
Which is
I'm
why
not
I
quite
was
sure.
so pissed at you for rooting for the Bills over the Broncos. Like, no. Denver already beat us once. I hate Denver. It's hilarious they haven't made the playoffs since 2015. You do not root for the Denver Broncos.
Well, that's just more so because I don't think Denver's going to do anything, and the more losses for the Bills, the better. And I just didn't see any way that Denver still had a shot at the AFC West, but they kind of have a shot. Like, it's not a great shot, but the AFC West is not over the way everyone was talking about it a few weeks ago.
Denver was the only team in the West to win this week, which is like,
Yeah.
what the hell? But no, it's incredibly frustrating, and it's incredibly frustrating that the streak was broken this year too. Like, that was, I don't know. I think the
Yeah,
last
you should
time
not have
they
lost
won.
to that team. You should not have lost to that
Thanks,
team. And
McCall. Fuck you, buddy. That's 100% on you.
I get that they kind of turned a corner just a little bit, but that you can't lose to that team. You can't.
Pathetic.
Can't be taken seriously if you lose to them. And not only have you lost to them, but you've lost now 3 games, all for the very same reasons. Offensive incompetence. It's the same reason in every single loss, and it's the same issues popping up over and over again. And that's what's so concerning.
Like, if Travis and Chris both leave in the offseason, tank for Luther Burden. Just get a top 5 pick and get Luther Burden.
Well, like I said, he's not draft eligible till 2025. Well, I guess you're talking
I
about
know,
next
but
year.
like,
So yeah.
yeah. Or like,
Yeah, that'd
all
be
my
nice.
mock drafts this year are going to be trading every draft pick to go up to top 5 and get Marvin Harrison Jr. Like,
Well, okay, let's talk about that just a little bit real quick, because there's a lot of big talented names in this year's draft at wide receiver, but of course the consensus among Chiefs fans, at least right now, I mean, let's hope that their season doesn't take the tumble that would put them in position to actually draft one of these players. But the concern is, okay, let's just say that the Chiefs get into the playoffs, win the divisional round, lose on conference championship weekend or whatever, something like that. And they're towards the bottom of the draft order and they can't get one of those guys. I feel like with how bad this wide receiver group is, And really, regardless of the results this year, you have to be willing to give up significant assets for the future by moving up and getting one of those elite names like Keon Coleman or Marvin Harrison Jr. seems unattainable. He'll probably be the first wide receiver off the board, but I feel like you got to Romo Dunze from Washington. You got to go up and get one of those guys.
I don't want.
Like I said,
I
desperate
don't
times
trust
call for
Washington
desperate
receivers.
measures.
I don't trust Washington receivers. But yeah, go out there. Like, I don't know. There were times during this draft process where remember how Ditka traded the entire draft to go up and get Ricky Williams? I wanted to do that for Will Anderson, and I don't think that would have been a terrible decision because Will Anderson is a monster. Like he would have been Derek Thomas 2.0, and he's been pretty good for the Texans thus far. But rookie pass rusher, we're not seeing what he's going to be yet. But still, if we go up, like, how would you feel if we only drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. and that was our entire draft, plus probably some change from next year? You wouldn't complain about that at all. Like that, suddenly you have the Pippin to I don't know, because I don't know. I always use I just said I don't know 4 times in a row. Fuck. But still, I draw the Mahomes and Jordan comparisons a lot. But the problem is Scottie Pippen's 6 years older than Jordan in this case. So if you go up and get Marvin Harrison Jr. by trading the entire farm to get him, suddenly you have a Pippen that's going to last a while. So no, shoot, even if Kelsey does retire, just trade up in the draft and go get Brock Bowers.
I was gonna say Brock Bowers too. Like you have a chance to actually find Travis Kelce's long-term replacement.
That would be, I don't know. That's one of the few. That's 6, I don't know, in a row, but that's still just one of the few scenarios where I'd feel decent about life after Travis Kelce because during the offseason, everyone's like, we don't need a number one wide receiver. We have Travis Kelce. That's our number one wide receiver. Fuck you. It doesn't work. You can't rely.
It was so extremely irresponsible to put this load on his shoulders this year. It just Brett Veach, what are you doing, man? I mean, 34-year-old Travis Kelce out there. Every other game, he's getting injured. He's getting doubled and tripled. And like I said, he's getting battered at the line of scrimmage. That was just such an irresponsible decision. And it's not like the Chiefs didn't have opportunities to get a wide receiver. They just chose not to.
Thielen's the one I always come back to.
Yeah, and like you said, I don't know how or why he wouldn't have been attainable at the trade deadline either.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess they would have probably because they would have had to do some, finagling with the cap space. But I feel like if you could have had Carolina, still pay most of his salary or something and find a way. But
yeah,
truly disappointing.
I think it's a 1-year deal too, so it's they probably wouldn't have any problem with that.
I think it was like a 3-year deal.
What?
I thought so. Which for Adam Thielen is kind of wild, but hey, whatever. I'm not.
I mean, he's been really good for them. Oh, 3 years, 25. Still, you could have figured that out. Man, imagine if we just. I don't know. We've backed the Brinks truck up for Tooney and Jawan Taylor. I'm not a fan of either of those contracts, but if we back the Brinks truck up to get Mike Evans in the offseason, suddenly I feel a lot better. If we had Mike Evans on this football team, that's
you
probably
don't even need to do that. You don't even need a Mike Evans. Imagine if this team just signed Jacoby Myers or brought back Juju. You just need someone.
Dude, Jacoby Myers would look like Randy Moss, compared to the rest of this room. Jacoby Myers is good. And I would have loved it.
Sucks. Well, we didn't really talk too much about this game, just kind of bitched about the wide receivers. But I mean, that's really all you can do after this game.
I mean, what? We're gonna be like the 17th podcast to sit there and like do a play-by-play recap or whatever. It's like, no, the receivers are the reason why the game ended up the way that it is. Is Theo Weiss draft eligible this year?
Yes, and I imagine he'll go to the Senior Bowl, and so like it's up in the air whether or not he goes back to Mizzou. I think he's going to cash in on his really good year though and try to go to the NFL. So yeah, I
Sign
think so.
him or draft him rather. I don't know, just offensive line and wide receivers. That's what the draft's gonna look like. That's what it has to be. And I don't even say offensive line because of the tackle thing. Donovan Smith is awful. Just a terrible left tackle.
Final T machine, terrible in the
Yeah.
run game. Or at least he was tonight. Okay.
Constant
Okay.
holdings.
We'll just. Are you ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, I took a sleeping pill like an hour before you wanted to record, so like I'm gone, dude.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up then. So, yeah, guys, that's it. That's the mood in Chiefs Kingdom right now. So you'll have to let us know down in the comments what you guys think of the Chiefs wide receiver core, if you trust them to figure it out before the end of the season. Because
We're
I
7-3.
kind
We're
of
gonna
don't.
win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we'll see what side you guys are on. But with all that being said, make
Mahomes.
sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. You can
Follow
check out
me.
more of my work on.
YouTube
Yeah, I
Prom
was gonna say.
Connor. Twitter Brady Reeks. OnlyFans Prime_Connor. Telegram at primeconnor.net. Instagram Dr. Sanity. Twitter at Chiefs and
You already
SD.
said your Twitter. Well, okay, we're done. All right, so
Show
thank
me
you all for joining
Bowers
us. You can go check out
Akron
Conor on
TV.
Twitter and all that good stuff. Yeah, check out my work on showmefootball.com, airheadaddict.com. We'll see you all in the next one.